If you've ever wondered how a big family survives on one student income, here it is. I'm going to show you our actual numbers, how we divide things up, and what things look like when they don't go according to plan. Speaking of things not going according to plan, whenever I looked back on the last video I did, our 48,000 video, and we did our January budget, I realized and was kind of seeing for myself in real time, something's not adding up here. The math is not mathing. Things are off. So we really kind of did a little bit more of a deep dive and realized we needed to change some things up. So I felt like it was perfect timing that I filmed that for you guys, because then things were able to be brought to my attention and I was able to see things a little bit differently and realize we are having way too many expenses going out. The biggest thing about this whole experience and trying to budget on a very low income is you have to know where your money is going. So in this video, I'm going to literally walk you guys through our numbers. Probably at least half of the video is going to be screen recording of our Excel sheets here. I just want to show you guys these numbers because this is real life. Things are not perfect. And as you can see, I'm sitting here telling you guys, something has got to change. You have to be willing to be flexible. You have to be watching your numbers. You have to be willing to change things when the math is not adding up. And that's kind of where we're at. The math is not adding up. I'm not feeling as comfortable with things as I was in our first semester. So I'm gonna take you guys back to when we first started. We're gonna look at the numbers all the way through loosely, but then mostly focus in on like our good months, our bad months, so that you guys can see all of that. Something you're not specifically going to see on there is school expenses. That's generally something that we would put in the miscellaneous category. That would be stuff like scrubs or loops, teeth, just any kind of school supplies that he would need is gonna be in that like miscellaneous category. We could probably do another one, a different category to show that a little more clearly, which we might in the future, but right now it's just so random. He's only gotten that stuff like pretty much in the beginning, the first semester, and then some this semester, but it's not like monthly by any means, so we don't have a set row for that. Instead of putting, oh, we're starting at 18,709, I think that was the number, we didn't. We subtracted out what we wanted for those emergencies, for the savings, for the buffer, for whatever. And then we just started with the amount that was left over as our like starting point. So right now you are seeing each month since September. I don't know why August isn't on here. Maybe we did that separately. Anyway, so you're seeing since September, you're seeing what we have now as our Excel sheets. Now, we do want to change this up going forward, just make it a little more clear and not so like repetitive with the expenses versus actual expenses. So we kind of want to change it up a little bit. However, I want to go ahead and show you guys November, for example, was a really good month. So you can see here, we estimated when we first came what utilities were going to be. They have consistently been lower than what we like expect or what we thought that they might be. So that is good. Water, internet, life insurance. That was something that I did not mention. That is a fixed expense that we have here, as well as renter's insurance. And then you can just see literally everything. So I want to bring your attention to this right here. This is our entertainment and kids clothes category. And I talked about in a previous video that that is cash that is already taken out. So that is why the amount is always the same. This will come into play a little bit later on. As you guys know, I said in the beginning of this video that we are having to change things up to make things work. So you'll see a little bit more on that later. But this was a very good month for our miscellaneous and home essential spending. So like I said, miscellaneous could be literally random or have some of his school expenses on there. And then of course, home essentials, trash bags, soap, cat food, diapers, wipes, etc. So some months that is very, very crazy. And in fact, you can see right here in October, that was a very, very interesting month. Home essential category was absolutely insane. Probably hence why we did not spend as much the following month because what the heck else did we need? I don't even know. And then of course down here you can see from his AV job what he made each month and so on. So we're gonna scroll over to December. So again, a very rough month with miscellaneous and home essential spending, but he also does have his Olive Garden money that is in here, which was $805. I believe that was everything that he made. I mentioned in one of my previous videos that we immediately will pay certain things. So we'll immediately pay rent for all of the semester, automatically take out the cash for date nights, entertainment, etc. So you can see we consistently had some pretty high spending months in here. So then when we were doing January's budget, this was where we were at for our miscellaneous and home essentials. And so what we ended up doing was, between the video and me kind of being like, okay, like, yes, that's how much money we're receiving, but then if I'm looking at how much we're actually spending, the two numbers are not matching. They're not adding up. Things aren't looking great. Essentially, what we decided to do was, you will see that we have kids' clothes blank. Obviously, that means I did not buy anything for them as far as clothing in January. So really, we could just put a 0 there, same thing. And we just decided essentially that we would change the amounts that we were taking out for entertainment and for the kids' clothing. I would say we are fairly lucky in that, like I said, we have the option to use hand-me-downs for several of our kids. If absolute worst came to worst, our families would 100% not bat an eye at helping to pitch in for the kids' clothing. But we also don't have need for getting kids clothing items every single month. So what we decided to do was essentially just shrink that budget. We hadn't taken out all the cash yet. I took out $250, I think, already. And so I was like, okay, well, that will just be what we use for the kids' clothes this semester. And now that's not much when you divide that between 5 kids by any means, but they just don't need anything right now. They might, as summer gets closer, need some things, but they don't need anything right now. So it's just not something that we need to pull out $200 each month for if we're not using it. We can allocate that money elsewhere because clearly we need it. The other thing that we decided was that we were, instead of just completely getting rid of date night, because that's just not really feasible. Of course, we can obviously do things where we make food at home, and we do that often, but it's just completely unrealistic to say, oh, we're never going to get anything out for date night. We're never going to grab a treat for the family. We're never going to do anything outside of the home. So we said, we'll go ahead and we'll just cut that in half. We'll do 100 and we'll just make it work. It's just going to be a little bit tougher of a semester this time than it was last, but that's okay. There's just not enough money. The money is just not enough, and it's not stretching like it was before. And I mentioned in one of the previous videos that the first semester we didn't have to cover as many months as we did for the second. So the money has to stretch a little bit farther for this spring semester than it did in the fall. Obviously, at the time of me filming this, we have not finished February yet. We're about halfway through. It will be interesting to see what our miscellaneous and home essentials numbers come to. They need to stay lower. I think January's totals here are pretty much, if you average everything out in those categories, those are pretty close to the numbers I think that we got for average. One of them might have hit the 800 range, but that's way too much considering we said, oh, this is about the numbers that it'll be. About 200 for miscellaneous and 250 for home essentials. That's obviously, we've not stuck to that a single month that we have been here. And so, like I said, this is a little closer to the average that we are doing. I wish I could say that it was like reckless spending or stuff that we didn't really need, which needs are very different for everybody. And I think there are some things in there that arguably could say, okay, did we need it? Yes. Did we maybe need it right at that moment, or could we waited and seen when it would fit better? Yes, but again, a lot of those things are items for the house, or we spend a decent amount in diapers and wipes, toilet paper, because we have a lot of people in our family. It's hard to say, oh, we'll cut that down even more if that's not going to be realistic. And so that would be something that I would say to really look at when you're looking at your budget is, can we cut things down? But realistically, what is going to happen? And I don't mean realistically and like, oh my gosh, I have to do a nail appointment, or oh, I have to go out and do this fun activity. I don't mean that. As much fun as that would be, and if it does fit into your budget, go do that by all means. I think that is wonderful. If that fits into the budget, absolutely go and do it. But what I'm talking about is specifically the instance where that is definitely not in your budget, and then even beyond that, you're looking at your spending and saying, like, okay, could we rein this in? Could we rein that in? What do we have as far as subscriptions or services that we're doing? And kind of just really looking at all of those things. I think that's where we get into the biggest trap, is when we're not looking at our budget and our finances. I think it's fairly obvious just based on our numbers alone. If we were not watching this, if we were not managing this, if it wasn't always on our mind and a topic of conversation, then we would run out of money. Plain and simple, that is what it is. We would 100% run out of money. Definitely slightly a concern based off of just the numbers that we're seeing so far. Like I said, after filming that $48,000 video for you guys, I really saw more clearly and was like, oh, okay, there's some things that we seriously need to change. Aside from our bills going out, and that being something that, okay, we're spending too much, clearly. Also are looking at what can we potentially do to bring more money in. In an ideal, perfect world, we could make it work on what we're given from the school and his AV job, and that would be enough. For us, it's clearly not working out that way, which is fine, hence the Olive Garden, and that's something that he's definitely going to have to do. My husband went ahead and applied for a research thing that they have going on this summer at the school. So you get, I don't know if it's a few $1,000s, or I don't know exactly what the number is there. You apply to do this research over the summer and you get paid for it. So that is something that he applied for. I think we'll know maybe in a month if he got that or not. That will be a big help to get a little bit of extra money. My husband also did tell me that I thought that we were not getting paid until July. That's when I thought that the summer semester started, and I'm not sure if that's still the case or they're just paying a little bit early. Not entirely sure, but I believe they are doing their next payout in June. So that will help too, because I was really stressing like, crud, we didn't account for July's rent yet. That's going to be major. The last thing that I wanted to mention too was, because of our family size and income that we've made, we have always got a pretty decent tax return. Again, I know everybody, that is so variable. Some people get more, less. It just kind of depends on a lot of factors. But we are hoping and expecting to get a fairly decent tax return this year. As you can see, we pay out each month $600 in credit cards. That was something that was huge for me, that we pay off before we moved. And unfortunately, it just did not happen. There was so many things that we needed to pay for and do and take care of, and we just were not able to get those where I wanted them to be. And I was hoping to pretty much wipe out almost everything in regards to credit cards with our tax return. However, clearly if we're worried here about not having enough money, I don't want to exacerbate the problem by then putting ourselves in a situation where we would be desperate enough that we had to use credit cards any further. So I want to keep us where we're at with that, and which is not using them. My thought was, okay, we will say pay off one card to kind of help get that debt snowball rolling, but we will hang on to the rest of it until we see how this semester plays out, or until this semester is over and we know we're in the clear and we're good. Then at that point, if by the grace of God, we are in a good place and we had enough money and everything worked out, then I could go ahead and put that into the credit cards like I originally wanted to. but if it needs to be used for other things, then at least it's there. So I know that's, like I said, not everybody's situation, but hopefully if you are a big family, you are getting, at least for this first year in, getting a decent sized tax return that could really help, that could be that emergency fund if you didn't have one, could pay off the debt if your budget was going well and you had enough money each month, or like in our case, that just served as a little bit of a backup plan in case the money doesn't stretch until mid-June for us. I think if I could just re-emphasize one more time how important it is to always, always, always be watching, looking at your finances. And if you are the wife, I am speaking to you right now directly. If you are the wife watching this, you have to be involved. You have to be in there. You have to be managing the finances too. You have to be watching. Even if your husband is amazing with money, sometimes he might just be so busy he's not catching something, or you have to be making sure that if you are the main one doing the shopping or the spending or the buying or whatever, that is staying in check. It has to be a team effort. It has to be a group effort. And both people responsible and watching and keeping an eye, and both people willing to throw out ideas on how to adjust and what could be changed. If you have any questions, feel free to ask. Absolutely. I'm doing this being completely and 100% open, honest, transparent, to try and help in any way that I can. Because like I said, this is the information that I so desperately wanted, felt like I needed, wish that I could have seen, just for peace of mind, if anything else. I know sometimes it is tight and it is a struggle, and we're seeing that, we're doing that. I'm showing that to you guys, that it is not just easy breezy and you get this money in your account and it's this huge lump sum and everything's great and easy and wonderful, because it's not. It's definitely not. And it's something that you have to be on top of, because that money can literally go out just as quick as it came in. Having a system and budget in place is absolutely crucial. When every dollar has a job, it feels manageable and allows us to focus on what's really important. Thanks for watching.